In the governance world, we really need to take a hard look at how do you govern technology programs so that they don't have these adverse impacts on the planet and on society.
ESG has exploded into compliance and business consciousness in 2021. Join Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, on the ESG Report and learn about sustainability risks, opportunities, and issues that business leaders and compliance professionals need to know about regarding ESG.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode. And today I have with me Jed Yueh. Jed is the founder of Delphix, and we've had him on this pod before about the innovation that he and his company have brought to the digital transformation area. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today to talk about, I would say, is a passion project. So, Jed, first of all, with that incredibly long-winded introduction, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be back.
So all of this started based on a LinkedIn post, maybe even just a note where Jed said he was involved with sustainableIT.org. Sounded interesting. I looked at the website and I went, wow, you guys are really onto something. So could you tell us a little bit about this organization, Jed?
Yeah, happy to. SustainableIT.org, our mission is really to advance global sustainability through technology leadership. Like many people, I believe in the planet. I believe in taking action against climate change. But most of us believe that sustainability is somebody else's problem to solve. And I think we cannot keep thinking that way if we really want to make a difference. And so we've been collaborating with technology leaders from many of the world's biggest companies like Fidelity and Morgan Stanley and Choice Hotels. And they've joined us in a think tank to really try and drive forward sustainability across the world's largest organizations. That really is the mission, is to work with technology leaders to define what are the industry best practices that all companies should really be endeavoring to deliver against, to define sustainable digital transformation programs by industry, and then define metrics for the three pillars of sustainability: environmental, social or societal, and governance. And once we have those metrics, to see how many companies we can get to really transparently report and act against the sustainability imperative.
So when I looked at the website and read the materials on the website, it struck me, Jed, that I saw at least two different approaches. One is, as you said, to advance global sustainability through digital technology, part one. But I also wanted to ask you, do you see the digital technology as actually a part of ESG, not simply to drive ESG, but I see it directly in data governance, which falls under the G, which falls under governance. And then if we move the governance up from the work you might do with a chief technology officer or a CISO, literally up to the board of directors. And that digital governance is something that every company should be thinking about, and every company should be putting into their overall ESG program. And it just seemed to me that you guys were really onto a couple of different areas. And would that be a valid approach?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very valid insight. In the governance world, we really need to take a hard look at how do you govern technology programs so that they don't have these adverse impacts on the planet and on society. We've seen many of the tech giants trample consumer data privacy in their quest to increase ad-driven revenues. And so we really don't want to see those kinds of outcomes, or we want to see those types of externalities accounted for in how we govern digital transformation programs for all the world's biggest companies.
So if I could step back to maybe the broader sustainability, you guys are one of the first groups I've heard talking about. Let's look at this from a digital approach. Let's look at a digital transformation to what you are doing in the E, in the S, in the G, and then use those insights to drive individual specific initiatives as well. Would that also be a fair assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. Today, most companies are looking at ESG as something that they hear demands for from their shareholders. And so they independently chart the course they're going to take on environmental, societal, or governance initiatives. What we want to do is really create these best practices and identify the best programs that you can drive that are digital programs. So they're not only programs that can be run through the IT organization, but they can actually digitize the way a business functions. So they're touching the entire business, how it transacts business with its customers, whether or not they need branch offices, whether or not they need paper, whether or not people need to travel from location to location. All of these things that can have a carbon and environmental impact can all fall under the scope of transformation programs. So to give you an example, some of the financial services leaders that we had that joined us in the inaugural board meeting, they shared digital programs that many banks have undertaken to reduce traffic to their branch offices, the need for branch offices, the need to truck checks back and forth between branch offices, the need for people to drive to locations for check processing or to check their balances. All of those programs can really help the environment in their digital programs as well.
Jed, I love that example because for many years I was accused of being a tree hugger. And when the program you just described, is it going to help climate change? Is it going to help the E and ESG? Yes. But to me, you just described a brilliant business strategy to reduce cost while decreasing your carbon footprint and increasing your overall environmental scale on ESG. So it seems to me that you guys have really identified some business steps and business processes that you can take to actually make your company more efficient. And I find that to be the biggest driver of ESG now.
Absolutely. One of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we had a huge reduction in the amount of driving that occurred during the peak periods of the pandemic. And a lot of what was facilitated through the traditional ways that we interact with our businesses was all done digitally. Everything shifted to digital. It showed us what is the art of the possible from digital and how much it can have a positive impact on the environment. And so if you take these programs and you take them to their logical conclusion, they really can have a profound impact over time.
You mentioned a board meeting. I was wondering if you might tell us sort of where the organization is. It's already been formed. It's a 503c. Where are you in the organization's life cycle now?
We've had our inaugural board meeting. The company has been founded as a nonprofit, and we've identified the vision and the mission and the mandates. And now we're focused on bringing more community, building a bigger community of technology leaders around the nonprofit, and then defining the best practices, the sustainable digital transformation programs by industry, the shared metrics that we believe all companies should be following, and trying to drive for transparent execution and results.
Jed, you talked about some of the people that you and others had been in discussions with, which led to the founding of sustainableIT.org. But I was wondering if you could maybe go through the list of some of the folks who are on the board of directors or otherwise be involved to really demonstrate the breadth and scope of what you guys have created.
Yeah, Mihir Shah is one of them. He's the CTO at Fidelity. We have a CTO from Morgan Stanley as well, Catherine Wetmer. We have Brian Kirkland from Choice Hotels. He's the CIO of Choice Hotels. We have Bernard Devgani, who's the global CIO of BNP Paribas. So many great technologists, luminaries in the industry who work for some of the world's biggest companies. And that's really how we can have the biggest impact. It's not about one technology company that can be pro-environment. It's about figuring out what are the biggest programs we can execute against across all of the biggest companies by all the biggest industries.
Jed, if someone wanted more information on sustainable IT or wanted to get involved, what would you suggest the best way for them to do so?
They can reach out to me or any of our board members, and we will certainly have better ways of engaging with us on the website over time. Right now, the website is under development, so we don't have the classic calls to action and the email list that you can join. But you can also reach out to any of the board members on LinkedIn, and we'll get you routed in.
Well, Jed, when I looked at the website, I thought it was very interesting. I have to say, after listening to you, I'm very excited about this because I think you guys are really onto something to help overall sustainable growth, but also in data transformation, data governance. I think that is directly in the S and the G part of ESG. And I think that many of the strategies you guys will develop can be used by my people, compliance professionals, frankly, in governance. So I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think companies really need to be more mindful about how they're protecting consumer data privacy, sensitive information. these kinds of things really have a negative impact on society when breaches occur. And so in the governance lane, we really need a stronger stance when it comes to protecting our consumers as we continue to innovate and ship these digital programs.
Well, Jed, as the organization develops, I hope I can perhaps call upon you to visit with you again to see where you all are and what you've come up with.
Yeah, I'd be happy to join again. Thank you so much, Tom.